So, it's hard for someone to admit when they're wrong about a show, honestly. And I've got to say, I was surprised. But, you know what they say, it takes a big, well, it doesn't really, this expression is kind of hard with this, you know what, I'll try it anyways. It takes a real big fake virtual reality YouTuber to admit they're wrong. And I was definitely wrong about the Ghost and Molly McGee. Like, for sure. This has been one of the most fun, non-story driven cartoons that I've enjoyed since Phineas and Ferb. Like the the fact that there is no overarching story, which was something I predicted, turned out to be less of a detriment and more of a almost benefit for the show. The show was never meant to be story driven, and I thought that may leave it to lame jokes such as fart jokes and stuff like that. But no, the comedy in this show is on point. In fact, I have laughed so much watching this cartoon. And I've watched every episode up to the latest one to release so far. Not to mention, I could see when people were comparing it to Phineas and Ferb now. The musical numbers in every episode, the problem solving that Molly McGee goes through, it's very Phineas and Ferb-esque, and I really love it. In fact, I super enjoy the Abraham Lincoln song. It's one of my favorites that I've heard in the cartoon in a long time. I've listened to it way too much. Everything about this show that I thought may have been weak or just episodical Teen Titans Go, Big City Greens-esque has actually not been what I thought it was. The show's actually been quite enjoyable, and I've enjoyed watching every second of it, actually. I've enjoyed every episode. I've legitimately laughed. And I love the over-the-top characters. Molly McGee is, as a character, she is optimistic to a fault, and I love that. She's overly optimistic. She's driven to a point where it's almost crazy. And every other character in the show is an exaggerated character trope. But in this show, that just adds to the comedy. Molly McGee is overbearing and overactive, over-energized, and that makes her stick out, but that also makes her funny. The dad is overly beat down by life, and so is the mother, but it's to a point where they still somehow find optimism even when they're struggling, which is not something that you would normally see in real life, but that adds to the comedic value. The fact that this town is so depressed that it makes no sense for it to still be functioning adds to its comedy. And then on the other side of the coin, you have Scratch. Scratch is a perfect antithesis to Molly McGee's over eccentric attitude, like her optimism. He's the perfect counter. His dour nature, his cynical comedy, it honestly meshes really well. The writing is really good, and the jokes from these two, and the chemistry from these two characters is amazing. Like, I've actually legitimately enjoyed every moment these two are on screen together. I love their chemistry. Right now, I don't feel like any of the background characters are particularly sticking out at all, but, I mean, we're only, a couple episodes in, so maybe they'll get some more development. I mean, I'm sure we'll see more Libby and, more Andrea as the show goes on, because she's going to be the show's token bad girl. The one thing I haven't seen, though, that I still am surprised that as a show this was something the show bragged about, was the LGBT rep. Now, you could say insinuations all you want. You can make comparisons between Amity and Luz and Molly and Libby or Andrea, whichever one you really want, I guess. But there's not even subtext between them right now. Molly McGee literally called Libby her best friend, and that's about it. But in my mind, the show doesn't need to focus on relationships, because right now, the show just needs to keep doing what it's doing. It has strong comedy, has great characters, and it has really, really funny writing. Like, really funny writing. The only time the show has actually caught me off guard were a few underlining stuff that I found to be a bit strange to be in this kind of cartoon, but I'll go more in depth on that when we do a full mod review of all the current episodes, probably tomorrow or later on today. We'll see if that releases. It depends on if I get it edited or not. But no, I've overall enjoyed The Ghost of Molly McGee. In fact, I think the show is really great the way it is. Now, the question is, has my opinion on its LGBT rep changed? And I know that's what probably a lot of you are thinking, and no, it has not. I don't believe the show is going to have strong LGBT rep. I think that it will be background, and I think maybe it'll probably be someone's dads or something. Maybe Libby's dads. We may have gotten a hint of that in the softball episode. I'm not sure. There were two dads in the background in that episode. But I'm not sure if they were friends at the ballpark or if they were a couple. I really couldn't tell. My guess is that they were a couple. But no, I don't see any straightforward LGBT rep still in this show. Molly McGee hasn't shown that any way that she's interested in girls or boys, and that she's more just interested in making friends and making the town a more upbeat and happier place to live. So I don't see that being a problem, or I don't see that being a factor in the show right now. And not to mention, like I said, I don't think a show like this really needs to overly rely on relationships, because this show is rooted in comedy. So any relationship that falls within the show would almost be for a comedic expense. Like it would almost seem like it would be a parody of what any type of relationship was, because this show is very parody-like. And that's good. The show is a comedy, and the show is meant to be a comedy. It's not meant to be story-driven. It's not meant to be hard plot. It's not meant to be similar to The Owl House or Amphibia or Steven Universe. It's not that type of show. This show falls under more of the Amazing World of Gumball-esque quality shows, like the Phineas and Ferb Gumball-esque shows, where I think they're great without an overarching story, and they're just naturally funny. Stuff like the regular show. It's just funny to watch, and lots of good jokes, well-timed parodies, over-the-top character tropes that you would think would be generic at this point, but they actually do them really well. And I don't see developed relationships sticking in this show. Not in a sense. Now, I will address that I know there's a little bit of an overarching story. The whole, if a town gets too happy, the ghost gets tucked into some parallel world, but I believe that that's not going to be a major focus, that may be undone by the end of Season 1 or the start of Season 2. We'll see. I mean, it might actually be able to be undone with the curse, or it could be a Monsters, Inc. thing where they learn that actually ghosts helping the town is more effective than a ghost, destroying the town. Sort of Monsters, Inc., where they go from scaring the kids to making them laugh. It could be something like that. I could see that. Or it could be that this is a great way to help ghosts pass on. Who knows? But again, I don't think that needs to be an overarching focus on this show, because this show is meant to be more of a comedy. As for the musical numbers in the show, I want to go back to them real quick. I think they are phenomenal. I love the musical numbers. Some people say they're annoying. I find them charming. I especially, like I said, love the Abe Lincoln song. Very Hamilton-esque in my mind, talking about a historic figure through rap with the Elton John sunglasses. It was really fun. I actually really loved that rap, and I really enjoyed that song. And a lot of the stuff can hit home to both adults and children. Like, for example, in the latest episode, spoiler if you haven't watched it, I guess, but in the latest episode, there was a issue with the mother, Mrs. McGee, and her mother, and which they hadn't spoken in years, and they had an unspoken anger at each other, where the mother thought the mom hated her for going to art school, but the mom didn't hate her for going to art school. The mom hated her for giving up on her dream when she had so much talent as an artist. And they worked that out. That's relevant to an adult. So there's a lot of stuff in this show that relevance to both, financial struggles to adults, where it's like kids comedy fitting in school and whatnot. The show has a bit of comedy for pretty much every age group, and I think that's great. I think that that's one of the reasons I find the show so funny. There are adult humor related jokes that catch me off guard that, I see now that I'm an adult, and there are humor jokes that I can remember from when I was a kid that are funny. So it really does hit home with its comedy, and when its jokes are on, it's on point. Now, like I said, I'll admit I was wrong. I didn't think I would enjoy this show as much as I actually am enjoying this show right now. But I do not change my opinion about the LGBT rep. I think that from what I've seen so far, it is going to be soft background rep still to this day. It won't be main character rep. I think it's going to just be relegated still. Now, is that a problem? I guess that depends on the fandom. Whether the fandom sees that as queer baiting or not is up to the fandom. To me, I don't think it's a problem. I mean, I'm cool with background LGBT characters in the show, because I think any relationship in the show is going to be played out for comedic extent, and I'd rather not see LGBT rep played out for comedy. So I think that this show is fine with having relationships in the background and staying to its comedic roots, because that's the show's strong point, and that's what it's meant to be, a comedy. And it's doing really well so far. I'll also be doing a review of the Amphibious Season 3 later on this week, so stay tuned for that, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this short video. Ashi signing out.